Mark, thank you for joining me. Appreciate
Hi,
it.
thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
yeah, this is wonderful. So we first met on Twitter. I have my Twitter account where I talk almost exclusively about Bitcoin, and you have your Twitter account where you talk about Bitcoin and other things. And I'm looking forward to talking. We'll learn more about you.
Sure.
You've been in the space a lot longer than me. So I'd love to hear more about your background. I'd love to hear your views on Bitcoin, of course, but I'd also love to hear your views on Tesla. I know that you're a big Tesla guy, Tesla bull, and stocks in general, diversification, portfolio. I'd love to talk artificial intelligence too. I don't know if you have strong views on that, but you being a Tesla bull, you probably have a lot of views on that. So those are all the things I love to talk about, and I think it'll be really interesting because people within the Bitcoin space have very different views on all of those things. And
Yeah.
anyway, it's just another perspective I'd love to hear. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you could tell me and everyone watching what a little bit your background is, just so we
Sure.
know what your perspective is.
Sure. So starting from kind of beginning of my professional career, I'm a background mechanical engineering. I graduated undergraduate with that, and I was an engineer for about 3 years. Um, I knew that wasn't for me when I was an engineer because I was really into markets and investing and trading and things like that. So I went to grad school and I got a graduate degree in business and started working a traditional finance job for a number of years after I graduated grad school. Um, so I guess my that's my professional working career. So along that time, I got interested in Tesla first. I was a Tesla bull, um, really big back in the day, like in 2013, before like anybody really even thought that the company was uh, had a chance of being successful. So I was kind of a Tesla maxi back in the day, 2013. Um, along that time, I discovered Bitcoin 2014. I invested a small amount of Bitcoin. Had no idea what I was doing at the time, but I bought a little bit of it and I just kept it. And I kept DCAing, dollar cost averaging into it for a number of years. I was more of a Tesla bull at the time, so I was focused like majority of my portfolio was in Tesla up until more recently, actually. And yeah, yeah, I guess I could explain things more detail if you have any more questions specifically about any of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. My main question with Tesla is this here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can.
okay. So for those that perhaps are not more in the finance, stock, Bitcoin space, whatever, just for context here. So this is really here 2019, 2020, 21, 21, and
Mhm.
here 22, 23. This is when Tesla has become really in the news, where Elon Musk, this is the vast majority where his wealth has come from. This is the vast majority of Tesla's price gain. And so you said, back here in 2013,
Yeah,
so essentially Tesla stock has done a 100x. And my
yeah.
question here, given this, is how on earth did you have the conviction and patience to hold this entire time? That's like, what are we looking at there? Six?
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years at
Yes.
least, where the stock really was quite flat, even though Tesla was growing, perhaps. I mean, you could elaborate
I
on
tell
that
you what,
myself,
that
but how do you have that conviction, that patience? Because most people would not have that, putting money in an extremely high risk electric car
yeah,
startup when they were extremely unprofitable for half a decade in the midst of the longest bull
yeah,
run of American stocks.
yeah. So yeah, it's great to look back and reflect on that because that was a really hard time. So I got into the stock in 2013 and it had an initial spike from like, so this is pre-split. So it was like, it went from like $36 to like $200 in 2014. And it stayed at $200 until basically around 2019-ish, somewhere around there. So it was basically flat for 5 or so years. Um, so, that was a great experience for me looking back on it because, well, first of all, I knew the business was growing because I knew how to read financial statements and I saw that they were actually selling a lot of cars. Every quarter, they're selling more cars than the previous quarter. They're profitable, unlike what a lot of mainstream media would say at the time. Um, it turns out you can just lie on mainstream media. So I think a lot of people were misled by that. But if you actually like drill down to the fundamentals of the company, you could clearly see that it was a growing business and they had a great outlook. Um, so where's it going with that? So yeah, that was so just analyzing the company at the time. Also, I was a car guy back in the day. Like I have a history of like building cars, like souping up cars. So I know quite a bit about like automotive engineering. And it was clear to me when I saw the Model S, the first mass production car, that it was just a better architecture for a vehicle than a traditional gas car. So the company had the product that was better than anything else. You know, it was like the iPhone moment. You know, the battery of the car is like on the floor, so the car's got a low center of gravity. It's quiet. They're very torquey, so you press the accelerator and it just goes because electric motors they have full torque from 0 RPMs. They don't have to spool up like an engine does. Um, Basically a computer on wheels. So this the technology of the car was better. Tesla had the software engineers, and they had the ability to attract software engineers, unlike the traditional automotive companies, which they could get software engineers, but they wouldn't be the best engineers like Tesla would get. So you have talent pooling to this one company in California, better product. Uh, CEO Elon Musk, he's very controversial, but he's got a track record of winning. He doesn't really mess around when it comes to business. I mean, if most of his ventures have been successful, so I have conviction the management of the company. Um, yeah, it was just like it was a perfect alignment for me at the time. I just, when you feel it, you just feel it in your bones. You just know you're right when you research something enough and you build enough conviction, you just know. Um, so I was able to hold for 5 years of no growth, all while accumulating a position. So it worked out well for me because the conviction was there. Research is important, I think. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I muted myself. It
Yeah.
definitely is. Conviction definitely is important, but I think myself and perhaps others wonder sometimes, is it conviction or is it a cult, you know?
Yeah.
And so how do you know? Because obviously we're all fallible, you know, myself, you, everyone watching, you know, we all make mistakes, we all have poor judgment. So how do you know that you have conviction in this company, you know, for those years versus being delusional and only seeing what you want to see?
you know what that's what makes it tough, because at the time, back pre 2019, I'm just this guy from Ohio that went to state school. So what am I supposed to know about how to to value a company? And I would read all these analyst reports at the time by these people that went to like Yale, like business school, or some nice business school. Nothing against the business schools, but they're more credentialed than I was. And I think a lot of it comes down to you can be a smart person, but you have to have good judgment. And I think good judgment comes to a lot of things um, with investing long term. Uh, you can be a very smart person and have poor judgment. I've noticed. So I think that I see that a lot in Bitcoin too. A lot of Bitcoin maxis have. You don't have to be that smart to have good judgment about what the asset's going to do. Um, so I don't know if I just answered your question or not, but I just went on a little tangent there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't know if you asked my question of how do we know that we have good judgment, but I think you make a good point that judgment is just as, if not more important than intelligence. I think of 2008. I think if we're talking about the 21st century here, I think probably great financial crisis, the subprime housing crisis in 2008 is probably the first big lack of judgment, let's say, from Wall Street. Like everyone in Wall Street
Yeah.
thought that the housing market was rock solid. Everyone thought that these subprime loans would just survive forever. And even those that didn't, there were some people that didn't think it would go on forever, but they didn't care because they're making so much money. But I think the vast majority consensus, besides the people that knew and didn't care or knew and were actively shorting the market, besides those two very small groups, the vast majority of Wall Street thought everything was safe. And it's like that's the
Mhm.
first big example to me. And then the second one, I think, is probably Tesla stock. Tesla for a decade and still to this day is hated on by basically
Mhm.
all of Wall Street.
I'm glad you're taking Bitcoin seriously. You all should be taking your self custody seriously. Where are you storing your seed phrase? Is it on a piece of paper? Is it on a sticky note? Or are you doing the right thing and putting it on a metal plate? My friends over at Steed Samp are sponsoring part of this video, And on their behalf, I'm here to tell you that they have a really good product for stamping your seed phrase on a durable piece of metal that you can keep over the long term. This prevents against your seed phrase getting lost due to water damage, fire damage, and frankly, it makes it a little more weighty and makes it a little more difficult to lose track of. And it's better psychologically for peace of mind with having it on something that you know is not just going to last as long as a piece of paper, but it's going to last indefinitely. So if your Bitcoin time horizon is for the long term and your time horizon for your seed phrase is for the long term, I highly encourage you check out Stampseed with their high quality experience in having Bitcoin seed plates for you. So go to the website. You can use my discount code in the description where you can get a discount off of your order of Stampseed seed plates. So it's a great company. You can get a great discount. Check out the link in the description.